Welcome to the fourth episode of the Earkick podcast. I'm Karen Steffen, co founder and COO of Earkick, and today's guest is Lauren Mitchell, a domestic abuse advocate. She identifies as neurodivergent, single mother, artist, writer, astrologist, lover, and fighter. We're excited to hear your story, Lauren. Well, Lauren, please share why you call yourself advocate.
I have unfortunately, a lot of experience being in abusive households and kind of learning how to survive and still kind of maintain some sense of self, like in an environment like that. My first memories are basically abusive with my parents. And, back then it was just a culture. It was just something that my family said, well, this is just how it's been. We got beat, our parents got beat, so you're getting beat. So it was kind of like normalized, and which wasn't really cool, because when I became an adult, it was hard for me to really tell the difference between love and like people who don't actually love you. I couldn't make that line of like, okay, someone who says they love me would never hurt me, because my parents had hurt me. So I think after all of that, and like all the experiences that I had that were so negative, I really feel like it's a duty of mine to really speak up, because even when I was an adult, I was blamed for all those situations that I got myself into that were abusive. And I was blamed for not seeing that they were abusive, but it was like they were similar to what I was growing up with. So I didn't really see it.
Can you share a bit about how you coped, like how you survived?
Yeah, I really survived by like just doing everything I could to kind of seclude my home life from like everything else. So when I would go to work or school or anything outside of my house, like that was who I was. Like that was the real me was coming out, because I wasn't in that like place of darkness where I just feel like I couldn't be myself. So I survived by like hanging out with friends and doing a lot of interests, writing, playing video games, like just socializing in general. Like that was how I survived, was just my life outside of the home.
Did you get any help from the community or from anyone in your environment or maybe a sibling?
Um, no siblings, but I always had that one person that I could go to, because like there was always things changing in my life. So there was always new people I was meeting, and there was always one person that noticed that I was in pain, or like that I was having a really hard time, and it was always a mentor figure. It was always like someone older. So it could have been the my coworker at work, who looks at me and sees something more than what I portrayed, or a guidance counselor who saw that I had awesome scores on my tests. Those people really like encouraged me throughout the whole time of like getting help and getting treatment, and knowing that there was something more than the abuse, and knowing that I was more than just someone who was a victim. They knew that I could do more and achieve more, and they were always the ones that really like made me remember myself and who I was, even though I would go home and I would lose everything, like just lose like my sense of self, lose reality almost, because I would just be dissociating to cope with everything.
Domestic violence, the abuse also goes along with mental health issues. Can you share a bit about that, about your struggles and experiences with mental health?
Yeah, so I basically had issues with depression since as long as I could remember. It was something that I went to a therapist for when I was 8 or 9 years old. I can't remember if it was a court ordered therapist, or if my mom just went to the therapist. I think it was court ordered, because I was removed from the home at one point. So yeah, I've been going to therapy for quite a while, on and off. It never really stuck, especially because my early trust in therapists was broken, because my first therapist told my parents what would have been beneficial towards me, and my parents got really angry at their advice and actually like punished me more for it. Then there was like anger because I was, obviously being abused and not listened to and unheard and unseen for a long time. So I do struggle with anger and not feeling, I don't want to say stable, but just like I feel like I'm on edge all the time. And that's anxiety too. It all kind of ties into each other. Like everything kind of just snowballs into this huge thing that just seems impossible to beat. But it's like, I know that if I just keep working at it, I can figure it out.
Do you have any techniques nowadays that you wish you had when you were younger?
Well, I wish I would have known how useful it is to like really just go outside and like just do nothing almost like that's a good way to just disconnect from everything or just take a walk and just kind of like appreciate like the nature that's going on outside of you and all this stuff that's outside of you, because it really just takes your mind off of like those inner thoughts. Because when I was a kid I was inside all the time and I was just alone with my thoughts in my room. So I wish that I could have gone back in time and told myself, hey, you should probably try to go outside more and enjoy things a little bit more. Because when you're in my situation there's not a lot that you can really like appreciate or do. But I mean, just connecting with nature and just seeing like beautiful things, it's like I didn't appreciate that until I got much older. It's really nice to just not be inside all the time.
So I would love to know how you make sure that you take that break or you go outside. Is there anything you can share about that?
Every morning I kind of like note how I'm waking up and feeling, because like the way I wake up and start the day is a lot. Like if I'm upset when I wake up, it's like not really going to be a good day. So the first thing I do is actually I make a journal of it in Earcook. Now I was doing it in just kind of in a notebook, but now I'm trying to use Earkick more so I can advocate for it more. And it's been really amazing just because like I have the option to write and then like record and then do a video clip, because it is important to really understand, hey, am I okay today? Because when you're used to just kind of powering through all of the emotional storms, you don't know how you're feeling unless you really stop to think about it. So I try to do it when I wake up every morning.
Wow. Is there any healing in the relationship that you now have with your kids?
I would say yes. I would say in some ways yes, and then in some ways no. Because when I look at my kids and see how happy they are, like I get happy, and it makes me feel really good, like to know that I'm giving them happiness. But at the same time, it's painful because they're little humans that look like me, and I have to kind of like sometimes get out of my head, because there'll be memories that I have of me doing things that they're doing. And then it just kind of brings me back to like how I was treated and stuff. And then it hurts because there's just a lot of things that I'm suppressing and that's making me feel that way. But I heard that it's not uncommon for people who have children to be reminded of their childhood trauma.
When it comes to your wonderful little kids, is there anything that you look for or that you want to make sure for them when they grow up?
Oh yeah, I definitely am watching how they're responding to situations and responding to their own emotions. And I want them to really learn how to express it in a healthy way. My son is really good about doing that most of the time, but he has his moments where he's not happy, and that's okay. He's still like 6, and of course the same thing with my almost 2-year old. They both have like a little bit of a hard time expressing because their parents do. So it's something that I'm looking out for and working on, and hopefully as I learn the skills to be more I guess better with expressing my emotions, like I'm teaching them along the way so they know, hey, mommy's doing it. Mommy has a hard time when she's emotional, but now she's stronger for it. So I can do it too. Like I really want them to see me changing the way I handle the way I express things, because for a long time I just never did. I never expressed it and I just cried by myself in my room, and I would get upset and everything, and I nobody would know why, but like now I'm just doing a lot better with explaining to them, like, I'm sorry, mommy's just stressed out, or whatever, just so they know what's going on. Like that's the
Yeah.
really big important thing, is they know what's going on, even if they're really young. They know that there's reasons for things, and they know that mommy knows that this isn't okay. So I want them to understand what it looks like to control your emotions.
As a domestic violence advocate, where will we see you in a few years?
I have so many paths that I can go down, of being a writer, or being like really getting into advocacy, and going a whole different route politically, because I have political interests too. I want to help other people realize too that they have the power inside of them to love themselves, because that is definitely something that really contributed to me healing, and knowing that there was more out there for me, is knowing that I can love myself, and that means that other people can love me too. We're taught that everybody should be like this perfect mold of a person, but if we just accept that we have flaws, like certain flaws, and that we can work on them, like it gets so much easier to love yourself when you know that you can change. I want to inspire hope, like in other people, because I have hope for myself.
If there is anyone who feels like, oh, I want to reach out, what is the best way to get in touch with you?
I am really, really good about emails, to really reach out and have like a deep conversation with me, because there's a lot of room for emotions and stories and feelings and emails.